Hey, this is TimmyG. Welcome to my video on where to put hot cues on your tracks. I'll be using DJay Pro 2 for this tutorial, but this technique is applicable to any DJ software. Let's get started. So this is just my personal way that I do this. You can do this in any way that you want, putting your hot cues wherever you think it's the best for you. And if you disagree or think you have a different idea than I'd love to know in the comments. But anyway, we're going to get started with my track Get Back, and then I'm going to do my other track, A Banger, just to show you a couple of different ways, and they're both different types of tracks as well. So I'm going to move the crossfader over here. And in DJay Pro 2, to get to your hot cues, you can either go over here to your single deck mode, but since we're going to be using A Banger, I'm going to just keep it in 2-deck mode. So I'm going to click right here. And then my hot cues are already selected. You might, if you're using DJay Pro, you might see this, and this is only 3, and I typically use more than 3. So I'm going to go to 8 points. Now, the first thing that I do with almost every single track that I'm playing, no matter what genre, is I have the first hot cue be the very beginning of the song. And the reason I do that is because every single time I will play a track, the first hot cue that I'm playing will bring me to the beginning of the song. If you're using a DJ controller, you can also hit Shift and Q to get to the beginning of the song or the track. But I also just have this because I can just hit it with one hand when I have my DJ controller and my hot cue pad selected. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do first. So here's Get Back. And now you can just click right here, and that will get you right to your hot cue. So when I click this, it starts to play. And by the way, to get rid of a cue point in DJay Pro 2, you can just make sure that this edit button's clicked and then X out of it. But one way that I like to do it to make sure that it is completely quantized, at least in DJay Pro 2, is by dragging a little bit before and then timing it up, and it will automatically go to the perfect spot. So now this is the intro, and this is a bass house track. So there's an intro that kind of goes for 8 bars, I believe, and then when I go over here, the next kind of intro part starts of this track. And I'm going to go back. So like right when I go right here. So if I want to skip this intro part and fade in here, I would set a hot cue there. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit play and then click the button as it's playing just so it quantizes it perfectly. If you don't want it quantized perfectly, you don't have to do this method, but this is just how DJay Pro 2 works. And right now. So now my second hot cue is right here. And then this is kind of like a similar repeat of the first section, but it has a slight build-up going on. And as this part is going to end, I'm going to hit another hot cue right here. So right here kind of starts the real build-up. This one's the beginning of the track, this one's kind of the halfway through the intro, and then here's the build-up. So I'm going to have my build-up here. If I wanted to mix in right here and start there and have the entire build-up. Also, it's good to have your hot cues and know where they're playing. Like, for instance, when I use my DDJ 1000, I can see the hot cues on the jog wheel, which is super helpful. Not actually in DJay Pro, but when I use Rekordbox, I'm able to do that. But it's very helpful, and I'm actually going to make a video on that in the future on different creative ways you can use that to your advantage. But anyway, I'm going to play it from this hot cue right now. And this is the first part of the build-up. I'm going to skip ahead. And right there is the second half of the build-up. And if I wanted to kind of drop one track into another track, I made a video on that. I could start right there to make sure it's lined up perfectly, but I don't have to start too far in advance. So I'm going to do the same thing. Go back a little bit, hit play. And right now, this is kind of the last phrase until the drop. And I'll kind of let it play out for a sec. So now there's two options right here. Right here's the drop. So unless there is something special, I would normally just have the next hot cue be the drop. But for instance, if I wanted to just kind of start out of nowhere, for instance, do like a creative transition and then play from this part just as the next track, kind of like a hard transition, and just go to that track, I would want a hot cue right here before that kind of, I don't even know what instrument I chose for this, but it was some sort of percussion. So I am going to put one here. So I'll start back from here and go a little closer. Nope, sorry, that was a mistake, which is fine because I have the edit on and I can just exit out. And I'll start again, right there. And I can just play from there whenever. And then I'll have that one be the drop. And the next time that I have a hot cue is typically when that energy or that drop portion or that bass portion is over. So I'm not going to play the whole thing. If you guys want, you can listen to my track Get Back on all the streaming services whenever. So it's about to be over. Right here, right here. So right here, the bass is still playing, but it's kind of like that outro. Right there. And this is a great time to fade into another track because this is kind of not a whole lot going on. The bass is playing, but you could turn the EQ down and fade another track. And then the last thing I'll do is put one there to let me know that this fading in section, that this good transition section is ending. Now, in a perfect world, I would like DJay Pro 2 to allow me to have more than 8 cue points, and I'm hoping to see that in maybe an upgrade if they make a DJay Pro 3 or anything like that, or maybe some sort of software update. Because I know in Rekordbox you can have more than 8, which is super helpful. But anyway, I actually might make a video on things that I want to see in future versions of DJay Pro that I don't see here, which I think will be a kind of cool idea. But anyway, this kind of brings me to my next point, which I typically do not have my hot cues through the first drop and the second drop. With a lot of EDM especially, the first drop and the second drop are similar. Like in this track, I think they're pretty much identical. Like this part of the track is very similar to this part of the track right here. So if you play through it, it's very similar. So I'm not even gonna have this. Like when I'm playing a set, I typically won't have both drops played. So I'm not gonna bother with that. So anyway, that's about it on setting the hot cues here. This just allows me the most flexibility for different spaces to transition in. Like if I wanted to play the song for longer, if you see my mouse in the left-hand corner here, I could start here, I could start here, or I could start here. And I could even start here. So there's 4 different spots that logistically make sense for me to start here. Actually 5 if I go back to this part right here. But that would be kind of more of an extreme transition. And then I have some wiggle room for me to fade out on right here. The next track that I'm going to put hot cues on is A Banger, and this one is slightly different because the first drop is broken into multiple parts. Like there's like first drop A and first drop B. So I'll do that right now. So I'm going to move the crossfader over here, and I'm going to have my cue points be 8. And as always, let me turn that on. As always, I'm going to have my first hot cue be the very beginning of the song. So I'm going to hit play, and it's right there. And I clicked a little late, but it still corrected it, which is good. So this is just like kind of an ominous introduction. And right here is going to be my second hot cue, because this is a good spot for me to mix in because it has a drum beat. And this would be kind of good to go to like a drum outro if this were the same tempo kind of Get Back or something like that. I'm going to pause. So yeah, this would be a good place to put a drum beat with another drum beat of another track. And the next is kind of like the build up, kind of like in Get Back that we did. So I'm gonna hit play a little bit before. And I'm gonna put another hot cue halfway through, just in case I wanted to transition a little bit. So like right here. And I'm gonna pause right here. You could put a hot cue when it starts, when the beat kind of doubles in speed. So like right there, you could have put it, but I don't need to put it there. And right when I say, dude throwing a banger, you could actually put a hot cue there, kind of like we did in Get Back, but I'm not going to do that this time. I don't do that often. Typically I don't do that, but like I said at the beginning of the video, you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to put a hot cue at the drop right here. And then what I do almost always is put the next hot cue at the end of that drop. And since this is a kind of two-part drop in one, I'm gonna hit play. So right there, the first part of the drop ends, and then like the mid-drop build-up comes in. So I'm gonna, like right there, this is kind of like a build-up to the second part of this drop. And then my next one's gonna be the beginning of the second drop. And then the next one is gonna be when this whole drop ends. So I'll skip ahead. And I like to put it right on the beat, even though the last kind of noise was right here. I like to just have it all in line with beat, just so I know which beat the drop is technically going to end. So another reason I picked this track a banger is because this is a different track in the sense the second drop, even though it has two parts, is very different than the first drop. So I'll kind of move over here. Hold on, I'll go back here. So you can kind of hear it's very different. Like the main instrument for that is very different than the original one. And then it kind of goes back to the original. And I'll skip ahead here. There's another build-up, mid-drop build-up. And then this one it's similar, but it's not the same as the second part of the first drop here. So anyway, what I would do here is I would add another hot cue. Well, I mean, in a perfect world, I'd be able to add hot cues throughout the track, but doing them this spread out doesn't make as much sense. So if I were to do this again and I wanted to include the second drop, what I would do is kind of start over from scratch. I would definitely keep the first one. I'm gonna hit edit so I can edit these, and I would keep the second one. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't keep the second one. I'm not gonna keep the second one because I could always do the third one. And once again, if you have enough time, you can just go to the first one, and looking at the waveform on the screen, you can actually see that where this starts about. So you don't actually need that. You don't really need any of these, is what I'm saying, but they're obviously super helpful. But anyway, so I'm gonna delete that. And then the best way to make this hot cue into this hot cue, you click it right here, and then you click the empty one before it, and then you delete the original one. So now it's my first one, it's my second one. And then I also wouldn't have this one right here, this mid build-up, because once again, if you only have 8, you want to kind of spread them out through the song if you want to use that for the whole song. So So I will delete this here. I'm going to keep this one right here because that's the first drop. So I'll put that here, delete it, and then I am going to keep that because that's the end of the first drop. And then I'll delete that here, And then this is the beginning of the second drop. So I'll put that up here and then delete this. And then this is the end right here. And then put this right here. And now I have I basically deleted 2 hot cues and shifted all the rest of them up. And now what I will do is go to the build up. I'll go right here, because I think we're about 8 bars away from that drop. You know what? I won't put one here, because I kind of know that this drop's coming after this build-up. I will actually put one at the second drop, but once again, this is just personal preference at this point. There's no right or wrong way to do it. So I know this drop's gonna come. I know this one's gonna come. You know what I'll do? I'll put it at the end of the first part of the second drop. So like right there. Right there. So right there. And then I can obviously, I know my own music, I can figure out where the drop's gonna happen. But this is just an alternative way if you wanted to include multiple drops and you only had access to 8 hot cues. Some tracks that I put hot cues on when I'm using Rekordbox, I have up to, I think that you can do up to 16. So I've actually put almost 16 hot cues in one track. Anyway, that's about it on how I put my hot cues on my tracks and where I put them. If you have a different method, I would love to know in the comments, so just be sure to let me know. And yeah, I think that's about it. If you like this video or if it helped you out, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or video suggestions, be sure to leave a comment. If you want to see more content like this and check out my original music, DJ videos, or production videos, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks a lot.